Will this be the most visually appealing video you watch in 2025? Probably not. But if you do watch this video until the end, you will know how to find and land an offer as an appointment setter in 2025. And for context, I'm not talking about those fake little roles, talking about 1 or 2 or 3K per month. These are actual roles that will get you from 3 to 10K per month. And this is what we like to look for as well when we hire appointment setters. And to give you a bit of context, I run the #1 setting coaching company in the industry. I've absolutely monopolized it. We have about 50, 60 people making anywhere from 3 to 30K per month with setting, online sales, or whatever they may have transitioned into. And I also run the fastest growing recruitment and setting management agency where we have multiple clients doing over 6 figures per month. And we have to plug and place a bunch of reps from our own ecosystem, our own coaching. And we essentially generate millions of dollars per month combined for all of our clients. So I know what we look for setters. I know what I like to train in. And I'm pretty much going to give you a bunch of free sauce from my coaching company for free in this video. So without further ado, let's dive in. The first thing we're going to talk about is what appointment setting actually is. If you're a beginner, this video is going to be perfect for you. If you've already kind of been in setting, I'm going to go through the basics real quick, but you'll still probably learn something. And then after, when we talk about the offer stuff, you'll get a bunch of sauce. But appointment setter is essentially someone who pretends to be the coach or the creator in the DMs, basically with the goal of booking you in for a sales call. So if you've talked to an online coach before, a fitness coach, whoever it might be, someone selling an Amazon FBA course, you have probably talked to their appointment setter and not them. The word we like to use is essentially leads or potential prospects, but for the sake of it, I'll just say leads. These leads are then booked in for a sales call with the closer, which is essentially just the person closing the deals, or a coach, depending on their sales structure. And then if obviously someone buys the mentorship or the program or the course or whatever it might be, you as an appointment setter earn a commission. Now, an example of a coach or a creator is Connor Sinan. Some of you guys may know him. He's a fitness coach, has a really big YouTube. He's also one of our management clients. And then how much do setters actually get paid? Because you guys are curious, you probably just want to make some money. I got you, I'm here. So the average commissions is about 5% as an appointment setter. And then there's also typically a base pay, especially if you're placed into one of our offers in our management recruitment agency or so. It's like $300 to $1,000, depending on if you're a dialer or a DM setter. But the lowest end you'll typically see is like 300 bucks. If you go and you find a random offer on the internet or you message a random guy, you might not get a base pay, especially at the beginning. The only reason this exists is because I force it and I imply it onto these coaches. Anyway, moving forward, we talked about what an appointment setter is, but let's talk about the actual types of appointment setting real quick. So Connor Sinan as a coach is going to have people inbounding him because they want fitness coaching. So this is essentially an inbound. Someone that messages you, they're super warm. It's like when a girl texts you saying, she wants to do whatever with you. That's an inbound. That's a laydown. Super easy. So they come to you through DMs, forums, comments, whatever it is, they're already pretty warm to buy. But then sometimes you may have to hit up that random girl, reply to one of her stories, and then do an outbound message, basically. So reaching out to followers or warmer leads, it is a little bit harder, but you can nurture them over time. The actual followers, not the girls, and then scale faster, make more money, and eventually get more sales. Because appointment setting, in a nutshell, if you've already kind of realized, is having a unique conversation with everybody in their audience. Now, Connor is not going to be able to talk to 461,000 people, so there is a bit of a vetting process in setting in itself, where you're going to say, okay, who do I message? Should I message this guy? Should I message that guy? As you get better, you figure out kind of who looks like they have a qualified account, who may have money, who may not have money. You're going to go for the guys that make more sense to talk to, nurture them over time, develop that relationship, and that's essentially what outbound is, but also essentially what setting is. So you have inbound and outbound. Hopefully that makes sense. Moving forward, how to find an offer as an appointment setter. There's 2 things here that I'm going to talk about, but there's also another way that a lot of you guys are going to avoid. So there's outreach, which is short term, which means reaching out to a couple of different types of people, which I'll talk about. And then there's also network, which is more of a longer term play. You've probably heard the saying before. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. If it's not, then probably click off of this video. I think you should know what a network is. But it is essentially the people you have access to, the people around you. So if you have a good network or you're connected to coaches or sales managers, and we'll talk about this stuff in a moment, you'll have better opportunities, you'll have higher quality offers, and scaling is going to be easier. So essentially making more money, progressing and growing is going to be easier. Whereas with outreach, it's a shorter term solution. So directly messaging people for roles or opportunities, much more proactive and in your control, but you're probably going to have to go through a lot more dirt-ish offers. And then there's also the third way of obviously developing your network by joining a paid program, but I'm not going to push that or imply it on you. You can do it if you want. I'm not really too bothered. So Who should I be outreaching to? And I'm going to refer to the Four Horsemen. So we have a couple different ones. I'm going to start with this one. Let's say sales managers, right? So you can see this guy, Teddy Shufu, Teddy, London Sales Infrastructures and Management. Guess what? He's one of my clients. He made $20,000 the month before last month, and last month he made about $32,000, $33,000. He pretty much manages sales teams. He also started as an appointment setter. So if you want to watch his interview, you can do that after this video. But he pretty much manages appointment setters and makes sure they're performing. So if you reach out to a guy like this and you're like, hey, bro, I'm an appointment setter, this, that, and that, and I'm going to show you a few ways to do it, he will always need good reps. He will always have good reps on standby, and he's always going to have this like hiring funnel, if you will. So what I would do is develop a relationship with a guy like this or one of these sales managers, and that will put you in a better position because they will always need reps. And even if they don't need it in the given moment, if they know you're good and they know you're reliable and they want to give you an opportunity, they'll tap into you whenever they need you. Moving forward, you'll have a closer. So typically these guys will have like high ticket closer, whatever in their bio. You can see this guy. He's generated over $1 million in B2C, which just means business to consumer, business to customer, which is basically like selling something to a non-business owner. If it's B2B, it means like I'm selling a business a service. If it's B2C, it means like I might sell it to an ordinary person who might just be buying like a coaching for how to make money online or whatever it might be. So this is essentially closers, and these are the people who, when you book in a sales call, they will take the sales call. It's typically how it works. So in a sales process, you have a setter, you have a closer, and you have the coach. Sometimes the coach is closing, sometimes the coach is setting, but it doesn't usually make sense for them to do it if they run a bigger offer making a lot of money. So they'll have closers, they'll have setters, and then you'll be working directly with the closers. The same thing like a sales manager. The closer will usually need good setters on their offers, and if the setter sucks, they'll tell the management team or the owner, and they'll want to get good setters in. These guys will typically know offers that need setters as well. This is a good connection. So this is probably what you'll scale into after setting as well. It's usually like setting into closing, into management or whatever. And then this is Hashim, one of our clients as well, but he's a growth operator. So he essentially runs the entire offer for the creator or the coach, and he gets like equity of like 15, 20, 25%. Once again, something you might transition to in the future. But for now, these guys have clients. They usually need really good sales reps. So good setters, good closers. If you tap in with them, you can also get yourself a higher probability of getting on a good offer. Then you got the final horseman, which is just reaching out to general coaches. So you can see this guy, GM coach for coaching. I'm assuming he's a fitness coach going off the account, but you can kind of see, okay, so he's got a pretty good following. He's probably making decent money. You could tap into him. So most authority within an offer is it's basically their product. So instead of you reaching out to like a growth operator who might need you now or in the future, or a closer or a sales manager, you're just going straight to the source and saying, yo, I might be able to help you, whatever. How do you reach out to them? I'll go through that in a minute. But I will say, if you're reaching out purely to a coach, you'd want them to have a larger following because you ideally want them making a minimum of like 40, 50K per month. Let's say base pay aside, if you're purely on commission, if they're not making minimum 40, 50K, you're not going to be making 2 or 2.5K a month, which is typically not worth your time. Unless you're like really in the trenches, you just started, even then the offer should be doing minimum 20, 25, 30K per month. So outreach is likely to get lost, meaning they already have a setter on the account. He's just going to leave your message on red. If the outreach is likely to get lost, they probably won't see your message because they got a big following, and you just need to be careful who you reach out to. So you might have to do a lot more volume for these. These two are specifically more specific, I would say. There's a smaller amount of them, but it's usually pretty good. And then this. What I would do is I'd split up your outreach. So typically I would do, let's say you're doing 50 outbound per day, which is what you should do without getting an action block where your account gets restricted. I would do like 10 for sales managers if you can. I would do like 10 for growth operators. I would do 10 for coaches, and then I would do about 20 for, or 10 for closers, and I would do about 20 for coaches and creators. And now you're at 10, 20, 30, 50, and then you can kind of split test and see as you go. If you get better response rates from sales managers or from closers or growth operators, just double down on that. And then just go with the data, if that kind of makes sense. So yeah, sales managers who manage the sales reps, closers who pretty much just do the closing, growth operators who run the entirety of the offer, and then coach or creators who is essentially the owner of the offer. Now I'm going to talk about a couple different ways for you to outreach. I'm obviously going to say always lead with value. A good example I have is I know a guy who essentially tried to reach out and email a bunch of millionaires, and none of them replied to him. They essentially didn't want to spend any of their time on him. But when he led with value and he offered to do something for them, that's when a lot more people replied. Same thing here. You don't want to be the goon just randomly messaging people trying to get free stuff. Nobody's going to want to help you out. And that's going to be your only edge. Having people want to help you because you can help them. So a good example is Cruise. It's a normal DM to a story reply. Cruise is basically a fitness coach. And the pros of this is it's efficient, it's easy to copy and paste, it's good for beginners. I wouldn't go as far as saying it's the greatest thing, but it's good, it's okay. And the cons are it's super generalized and you will probably lose your message. So if you send about 50 of these, you'd be lucky to get like 5-ish replies and then go into it and pretty much tell them you want to do their setting, which is not the greatest way, in my opinion. A good way is like a Loom video. So you can see it here. I'm kind of like on an account talking about it. You can kind of do the same thing for a coach. You can do an in-depth breakdown, give a bunch of value, but it does kind of need a strong title as well. And then I'm going to talk about the video, which is honestly what I would suggest you do. So this is Sebastian, one of my students who got to about 7 or 8K per month with setting. Feel free to watch that after as well. But this is a good example of an outreach he used to go and land offers. So when he was doing cold outreach himself, like you're going to have to do potentially at the beginning. It was super personalized, it was engaging, and it showed a lot of social proof of what he did in the past. Oh, but I don't have setting experience. Neither did he. He just talked about sales jobs or whatever jobs he worked in person. So like a supermarket, for example, you can compare that to client relations or like talking to people, social skills, communication skills. I did the same thing when I was outreaching for an offer at the beginning. I would relate it back to when I worked at a supermarket. So the main thing I would suggest is a video like this. And I will also say, if you really want to learn more about how to make this video or how to make these videos or do like proper outreach in a super niche way like this, what to say in each freaking minute of the video, go and watch this How to Become an Appointment Setter in 2025 video on my channel. I would watch this right after this because this is 53 minutes long. I had hair in this, but it's going to be a lot more valuable for you than for me to be able to say, okay, so these are the different ways. Because I'm not going to be able to go into the nitty gritties of how to break down a 40-second video and this and this and that and that. I would go and watch that, and then I'd probably go for this outreach method and do about 50 of these a day. I'd have one for growth operators, I've had one for coaches, I'd have one for sales managers, and I'd have one for closers. I'd have a couple different versions. Now, did the prospect reply? If yes, what you want to do is essentially get on an interview for them. So the goal is to get them on a call. So this is a Calendly link, so you might just be able to say, okay, beautiful, would you be down to run an interview? They say, yeah. Cool, you hop on an interview. Now we get to the point of evaluating offers. This is essentially, you've gotten on an interview, you're speaking to them, you're having the chill conversation, but now you want to see if the offer even makes sense for you. The last thing you want to do is be the goon who says, yeah, I'm ready to start, I'm ready to hop on the offer, and then you realize it's a horrible offer. So how do you avoid that? You want to ask a couple of questions like, how much is the offer doing per month? I would say revenue, and I'd also say cash collected. Cash collected is essentially how much they generated in cash. So if they did 50K, you would be able to take home 2.5 if that was fully from the setting process or whatever. How big is the team? You want to make sure they have like a decent structure for the team. So if they have a closer or like a content team, it's worth knowing. Are there other appointment setters? You don't want to split your commissions with 5 other appointment setters on an offer doing 20K per month. That is majorly cooked. Do they post regular content? Because if they do, then there'll probably be decent lead flow, people to talk to, inbounds and outbounds. And if they're not, you're burning yourself. Who is their target audience? So like who are the main people they're essentially attracting? If it's 14-year-olds, they probably don't have money. The audience might be super cooked. Are you being paid fairly? Ideally look for 5% commission. If you're bottom of the barrel, just started, you probably won't get a base pay, to be honest, unless you're getting on an offer within my community, within my coaching company, or within my recruitment and management agency. But if you're not, you're probably not getting a base pay, to be honest. And then what happened to the previous setter? If they had one in the past, then you kind of know what they already expect, what they liked, what they didn't like. And you can make sure you avoid the mistakes because you don't want to get fired right after getting the offer. So if they do reply, this is kind of the process you go down. You get them to essentially book you in for an interview. You hop on as soon as possible. Don't be a goon and wait. What I used to always do as well, I'm going to drop a bit of sauce, would be if I reached out and they replied, I would be like, oh, by the way, what's your WhatsApp? And then I'd push the conversation to WhatsApp. If you message them on Instagram, there's a high probability they'll reply and then not even reply after that and just lose you. If you go on WhatsApp, it's more personal. You're more incentivized to just kind of like have the conversation and get on an interview. So go through this process, go through the WhatsApp if you can, and get the interview set up for as soon as possible. As in, if you message me today and I said, oh yeah, let's do it, let's hop on an interview, you want to do it today or tomorrow. Don't wait a week. Nobody in this industry likes slow people. You're going to get burnt. You're going to get cooked. Now let's talk about the follow-up structure. The first thing I will say is I'm going to give you a little tip. The typical amount of follow-ups for a prospect to reply to is 5 to 7. Hermosi says it's about 7. If you know Alex Hermosi, most setters quit after 1 or 2. Don't be that setter. Don't be that goon. So I would just kind of do like 5 or 7. So let's say this is what it looks like. Day one, initial point of contact. You send the Loom video, which is honestly what I suggest you do. I think messages are kind of mid. Day three, follow up with the name. Day five, hey, just seeing if you managed to check this out. And when I say name, I'm just like, John, right? Something like that. I wouldn't even do a question mark like these other guys are telling you, because nobody wants to reply to something like that. We have bad subconscious association when someone says name question mark, but if we just say name, we're like, oh yeah, my bad, bro. I forgot to reply. You know, that's like psychology. That's actually quite good. You got to admit it. Day five, hey, just seeing if you managed to check this out. It's a little annoying, but it kind of does the trick sometimes. Hey, John, just seeing if you managed to check this out. Day seven, resend. So like delete on your messages and resend the Loom video or the original message or whatever you went through. Now I'm also going to talk about the profile. So this is a good profile. This is a bad profile. If you can tell why they're already cooked, beautiful. If you can't, you're cooked. A bad profile, no profile picture, no followers, no bio, no post. You look like a goon. You just look like a scammer. A good profile, you have a trustworthy amount of following, professional profile picture. So line of work, I also like to do something like this. So high ticket sales, high ticket setting. I think Caetano did a good job with it. This is one of my students who's doing like 4 or 5K a month. Testimonials of his wins essentially, and then a lifestyle post. He pretty much just looks chill. He doesn't look like a scammer. He doesn't look weird. He doesn't look sketch. He looks like a chill dude. I would reply to his message. If somebody messaged you like this and you were a coach, you wouldn't reply because you would think they're not serious. If someone messaged like this, you would think they're serious. So if there's mystery, you're untrustworthy. Your profile is the first point of contact, not the message. They're going to look at your account. If your account looks chopped, GG. First barrier of sales resistance you need to break, meaning this is the first time where people will kind of be skeptical. So there's a couple different parts of sales resistance, like the interview, like this. Don't be the sketchy looking account. So even if you're doing a bunch of volume, which you'll notice outreach is a volume game, even if you're doing a bunch of outreach and stuff, you're not going to get a reply if your account looks like this. You're not. So no matter how valuable your outreach is, it won't be seen without a good profile. And that's something I'd put a lot of emphasis on. Once again, did the prospect reply? No. Go and watch this video, because that is where I break down the full process of making a Loom video, optimizing your profile, what messages to follow up with, and everything else. It's 53 minutes long, and I've had multiple messages of people saying, hey, that video changed my life. I was able to land offers with it. I was able to make thousands of dollars per month with it. I didn't have to buy some random course. I've had other people tell me they bought some random setting course, got scammed, watched this video, and then made money. This video is better than most courses. So go and watch this if you're actually serious. It's 53 minutes long. If you can't sit through that, you're cooked. You're not going to make it in this industry. But here's the beautiful thing. For some of you that watch this video, it's going to spiral into a trajectory moment. Maybe you'll work with me in my coaching company. Maybe you'll decide to do your own thing. Maybe you'll just apply that full training. You'll go and make money. And in a couple months down the line, you'll make thousands of dollars per month. That's great. But a couple months after that, or maybe a year, maybe 2 years down the line, you'll turn into a manager or a closer or a growth operator or a coach, and you'll make tens of thousands of dollars. I am projecting that many people in my community will go and make 30 to 50K per month in the next couple of months. We already have some people doing 20, 30K per month. But that is because this industry is beautiful. Yes, it can be inconsistent. Yes, you can have good and bad months because it's online, because it's sales. But if you really stick to it, you're not going to be thinking about 3 to 10K per month roles. You're going to be thinking, how do I get to 30 to 100K per month? That's the beauty of the game. You're working as an entrepreneur in a business as a setter to develop more skill sets, to understand systems, to understand how to grow the business. You're having a good relationship with the team, with the offer owner, and then you grow and you do your own thing from there. The possibilities with setting is endless. Take advantage of it. The world is your oyster. Hopefully this video was beneficial. If you want to go and learn more about the coaching, feel free to check out my bio. I strongly imply and suggest you watch the How to Become an Appointment Setter in 2025. Because if you don't, you're just missing out on a bunch of free value that's already changed a bunch of lives. This video can only be so good. I'm not even sure how long it is. It might be 15, it might be 20 minutes long. I can't help you in 15, 20 minutes. Not that much. Go and watch this. Like I said, hopefully this was a helpful video. It was very good to meet you, and I will talk to you soon. Peace.